Protect your car with 3W Liners all-weather floor mats. Made from durable materials like TPE and rubber, our mats are designed to withstand rain, snow, and mud with deep grooves to trap dirt and liquids. For a custom fit and advanced protection, visit 3W Liners. That's the number 3, WLINERS.com today.
Ready to bring your vision to life? At Small Rig, every idea, design, and product is inspired by you, the creator. With our industry-first under co-design mode and the Dream Rig free customization project, we unite with global creators to turn big dreams into reality. Whether it's a cage rig or mount, Small Rig's versatile gear is built to elevate your craft. Small Rig, where your creativity meets our innovation. Go to smallrig.com.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Boobies.
Hi.
Hello, and welcome to
Boobies.
Boobies. That's right. We're your hosts. I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Joshua.
And today I needed to get my vocal warm-ups in.
There you go. Ma.
Red leather, yellow leather. I can't even say that one.
Red rum.
Murder.
Red rum. We are going to be talking and continuing our Chucky month. So we're going to be watching Child's Play 2 today.
Yes.
It's the title. And you guys knew that if you listened to last week's episode, because we covered Child's Play 1. And we gave that movie really high marks. And check out the episode because the movies are pretty fun. This one was I kind of had a blast watching. It was some fun.
There was some, I thought it was a little slower, more police.
Towards at the beginning of it?
Not police procedural, but it was just a little slower, not as much death. But then at the end, there was a lot. And then the last scene, or in the warehouse.
15 minutes, basically.
In the eyeballs, killing that dude, putting the eyes into his head. I was like, yes.
Yeah, gotcha.
I definitely was I was watching it and I seriously started nodding my head. And I was like, this is awesome.
And
then,
speaking of eyes,
it around and stuff too. I liked that as well, knocking Kyle out and stuff. But yes, speaking of the eye, we open with it.
Exactly. And it's pretty cool. I actually really like the opening, how we start with this eye and it comes panning out. And then you can tell they're trying to refurbish essentially Chucky. And you get the title card, Child's Play 2, right over his metal face.
Yeah, which I liked.
Yeah, and the eyes and stuff. So I thought it was a pretty cool opening. And I think that it almost gives Mad Scientist at the beginning vibes because they're reconstructing him. And the company is very much it was all a hoax. They can't prove anything and there's nothing wrong with the doll.
It made me upset that the police officers backed out and they were like, no, never mind. We don't actually believe that a doll did this.
Yeah.
And essentially instituting Karen.
Yeah, literally. They put her in the crazy house.
For poor Andy to go into the foster care system. When his mom is perfectly competent.
The other cops, they just were just but they probably got pressured into probably conforming because nobody believes them,
Yeah. But still, that was just so fucked. I was like, y'all are some pieces of shit. For real.
They did do that. And so unfortunately, for them, as they're putting back together Chucky, things do not go as planned. And also at the same time, we're getting little, like, we're cutting to where Andy is, and Andy is in a center for orphan children, essentially like a foster care system. And he's talking to his, what I would assume is his therapist, right? And so
Yeah.
the therapist is trying to be like, why, what was your bad dream? What was your nightmare about? And Andy's explaining to him, essentially what happened in the first movie, and how Charles Lee Ray entered the doll and became Chucky, and how he had to kill Andy in order to enter his body and not become a doll anymore to return to human form. So, and all while the doctor's just like, "Oh, that's a scary dream," and like Andy's like, "Fuck yeah, like you're telling me, brother." You know,
Yeah.
I like how you can tell Andy is like kind of like it's the same actor. So I love how we're growing up with him a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they
But,
made the first 3 movies, pretty
bop, bop,
close
bop.
back to back.
Yeah,
And
because
then
this one actually
for
came out 2 days I mean, not 2 days, 2 years to the date of the first
yeah,
one, release wise.
and, The Bride of Chucky, I think, came out, like, 8 years after
That's so
the
close.
3rd one. So,
Yeah.
long kind of far off from as compared to these ones.
You mean the third? What do you mean?
The Bride of Chucky came out, like, 8 years after the 3rd one.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That
Yeah,
is a pretty good break. But even still, like, because those then, like, it was like a break and then Bride of Chucky and then what? Seed of Chucky, I believe? Something like that. Bride of Chucky, Seed of
um,
Chucky.
I don't know.
And then there's another one
There's
after that.
too
Well,
many Chuckies
we're
to keep
but
up
yeah,
with.
I just know that. Oh, okay, yeah, it's the Bride of Chucky, and then it's curse, the Seed of Chucky, and then like the Curse of Chucky or something like that. But anyways, we have Andy. He's of course talking to the shrink. They're trying to essentially gaslight him and like make him believe like that this never really occurred and that he just kind of made it up to be able to process what happened in his life in the first movie. And we're back with the company people at the toy, what's it called, Toy Pals or whatever
Good
factory.
guys.
Good guys. And they are they're trying to put the eyes in, but as they're putting them in, one of the, I don't have his name, but one of the engineers or whatever, roboticists, gets electrocuted and shot and just like gets sent flying across the room.
Yeah,
And Chucky's
which
eyes turn red with like
I thought
electricity.
that was pretty comical.
It
Like,
was funny.
yeah,
Hmm.
that part I was like, "We're
I
not off to a good start,"
I
is what it
expected to
made
see
me.
him get up and have like hair like fried,
Yeah,
Um, and the
but he was all
niece.
bloodied and, like,
Oh yeah,
super dead. So,
for sure. So
um,
the
but I it
first
just
death of the movie.
yeah, sorry, and it just
No,
made
you're good.
me be like, "Uh," I don't know.
Need a
Like,
bit
I
like
see what they were
cheapy.
doing, and yeah, it just but, like, him going flying and stuff
Hmm.
just wasn't my favorite.
See,
But
that's how I felt about kind of like Chick in the first movie when she fell out the window. Because I was like, you were like halfway across the room, and like I get the doll like pushed you, but like to go
yeah.
flying halfway through the room and then out the window. But but um but I get it. And then yeah, like you said, it's pretty comical and he's dead, unfortunately. And they're just like they're obviously, the CEO is like, what the fuck? And so he's just like basically putting a pause to everything. And the dude who's under him is really trying to push, for some reason, I don't know why he really wants this doll to just go back out there. But he's just like, what do you want me to do with the doll? And the old guy is like, shove it up your ass or something like that.
Yeah. Shove it up your ass.
Hmm.
He said it so nonchalantly too that it was just like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. It's like we're
Um,
done with that. Okay. And then it cuts to our foster parents, I believe.
Yeah.
Right? They're talking to the
Phil and
I
something.
can tell you in a
Laurel.
second. Hmm. Let's see.
I don't know.
Phil and
Laureen.
blah. Joanne. It's Joanne.
Joanne. Oh, I don't know where I was
Yeah.
getting it all from. But
It's the
It all began with a simple idea, cutting handles off old ski sticks to create better pull-up bars. This sparked the creation of the revolutionary Engels 90 handles. After testing over 70 prototypes with 300 athletes, our patented handles were launched in 2018. We continue to push the boundaries of strength training. Join us in making your training more natural and effective. Visit engels90.com to learn more and revolutionize your workout.
Join the Daily High Club, the premier destination for glass water pipes, vaporizers, and accessories. Since 2015, we've sold over 1 million quality products and teamed up with legends like Snoop Dogg and Tommy Chong. Ready to elevate your smoking game? Visit dailyhighclub.com for our El Primo subscription box or shop unique pieces today.
They're talking to the counselor lady or whatever she is about Chucky, I mean not Chucky, Andy's situation. And they're essentially, the dad mostly is just kind of like, I don't know if we're equipped for his situation, but she's trying to reassure them that he essentially has reintegrated back into, normal life and he is okay. And all he wants to do is just essentially get past the trauma.
Yeah.
And
He's ready to move on with his life.
Mhm.
And so they end up just sending Andy home with them. And they're like driving in the car. They're asking him, stuff about what's your favorite food ever? And he's like, chocolate.
Yeah.
And then they're like, besides chocolate. And he says, well, my mom made me eggs. So I guess I like eggs. And they were like, eggs it is, basically. But then right as they're in the middle of talking, I guess Phil's distracted and a big 18-wheeler pulls out in front of them. And it just so happens to be a good guy's truck.
Yeah.
And says your pal to the end or whatever on it.
I love how it's just so jarring and it's the horns going off, it's blaring, and it's just everybody in the car is just "Ah,"
Yeah.
Pretty good.
That's got to be terrifying, almost hitting a semi because you're
Well,
dead.
most certainly. And then let alone it being the good guys. That's pretty terrific. Not terrific.
Terrific.
That's pretty
Horrific.
traumatic or horrific. I was trying to say horrific, I guess, and traumatic at the same time for Andy. And then they end up going back to the house, and their house is pretty nice. It looks very
The house is
much
real
like
nice.
the time.
It's big.
Super big. And you can tell they're well off. And they kind of allow him to go exploring. And he's doing that throughout the house. And his foster mom, Miss Joanne, ends up showing him around. They end up introducing him to Kyle, who is his foster sister. And she also lives there. And there's not much interaction right now. But you can tell
He
she's
does
just
pick up the toy, or not the toy, the figurine of the little Dutch figurine. And then Phil is like, no, don't touch that. We don't play with those things. And then, so later on, whenever Chucky kills Tommy or whatever with it, that's why.
And we can know from this how much it really meant to them, because the mom is that meant so much to me. And they are taking him to his room.
Generations of her family and stuff. So
Makes sense. And they're getting him to his room, unpacking everything. She's helping him, kind of talking to him. And as they're going through stuff, and he's the whole room's got toys from all these previous kids who've lived there. And he goes to the closet and he sees something and he starts to pull at it. And then unfortunately, a good guy doll falls down.
Yeah.
It's not Chucky, but its name is Tommy. But it's enough to make him go running off, and then the dad, who's the foster dad, who is just not equipped and should not be fostering children whatsoever, um, does not know how to like console him or even like emotionally make sure that he's okay, even after what he's been through, because he's just like, it's just a doll. Like you need to not.
Yeah.
Oh, and he's also like rule number 2 about this house, like no running.
Yeah, they don't believe him in the
Yeah.
slightest. And so that's making them really harsh with their
Discipline
interactions and
and
discipline with
interaction.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so Tommy falls out of the closet and
Hmm.
we have and then after that, and yeah, when they yell at him and stuff and like no running, and
Yeah.
it's like, well, what else do you expect this kid to do? That's an exact replica of the doll that he is terrified of. Like,
Yeah.
dumb. But we leave with the worker, the
The dude
second
from
in
earlier.
command, yeah,
Yeah.
guy from earlier.
I recognize the actor. He's played by like um
Yeah, I definitely have seen him in something before.
he's like from Once Upon a Time. He played like Hades in that. Man, I don't
Oh, I
know. He played
never
someone
made
else.
it to that far with Hades in there.
His name is Gregory Andrew German. That's not the name I would have gave him.
No,
But oh yeah, he's on Grey's Anatomy and like he was, I guess, on a lot of TV shows.
definitely never
Huh.
watched Grey's Anatomy either. But I've
Yeah,
seen
let me
him in
look.
something. Like I've probably seen him in like commercials of for all these things and stuff.
Yeah, or other.
But
I think pretty sure he's been in movies, but yeah, we have all of that happening. We're with him, and he is taking the Chucky doll home with him. He's getting in the car. It's raining. He's driving. He's on the phone with his wife or girlfriend, lover, and they're talking about how like they're about to have like their something anniversary. I don't remember what number.
I
And
think
she's
it's a 2 week.
2 week. Oh God, this is the
Yeah.
comedy. And so she's like, are you gonna pick up the vodka? And he's like, oh, yeah, I already got it, but still hasn't, of course. So he has to stop and get it. So as he stops to get that,
It
we
was a
have
really
this.
weird conversation because he was like, "I know what it does to you."
Oh yeah,
And I
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, "Ew."
Yeah, very
I don't
sleazy.
know.
Well, he
Yeah.
obviously wants to get in her pants,
Yeah.
But he stops to buy the vodka, which doesn't go well for him because like the place doesn't take cash and he only has his gold card and he's like so pretentious and he's like that's worth more than like cash or whatever. But at the same time, Chucky, who's in the car, is opened his files and he or took the file with him. I don't know how he had it, but
Yeah,
is
he opened the briefcase.
yeah, and has Andy's information and is called the foster care center and is like, hey, trying to get detail on fucking Andy, and he's pretending to be his uncle. And
Yeah,
then
he says it's his Uncle Chucky or
yeah,
Charles.
something like that.
And it was
Um,
like, y'all can't put 2 and 2 together."
and also like, wouldn't they have known if he had next of kin?
Yeah.
Excuse me. But he ends up, then the dude ends up going back to the car because the alarm goes off. Presumably Chucky, I guess, because he's like, I want to get the fuck out of here. And so the dude comes back, and as he gets back into the car, Chucky just like pulls the knife out on him.
A
And
gun, little
the
gun
gun.
arm.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, the gun. And also because that's in the fucking notes. Because I'm like, how the hell is he holding a gun?
Yeah. Well, it was a little tiny it looked like a toy gun.
Right?
And so I was like I was like, this gun's not gonna do anything except for maybe shoot some BBs is what I was thinking. I wasn't really expecting water.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's like, "Fucking drive! Get me to
Yeah.
this place." And the guy's like, "Ah, okay, whatever you want."
And he
And
gets
then
him there. And yeah, continue.
yeah, and then he's like, "Please just take whatever you want, but don't chew me. Like, don't hurt me." And he was like, "Ha, boom, you're dead," but sprays him with water. And then he's like, "Put your hands behind the seat," and like ties him up. And then he's like
With the rope.
seeming like he's gonna go.
Yeah.
And But he doesn't. He Black Christmas says this situation and puts a bag over his head and chokes him to death. You just see his little feet moving around, and then they just fall still. So
yeah, gone. Second kill.
Kills him dead. Yeah, I guess it does move pretty fast, but I guess they just weren't very like
they weren't
gruesome.
Big deaths necessarily. Yeah, and they also the deaths were very fast. Like they would like be like pretty much like 40 seconds, and then it'd be like next thing, like next cut. And yeah, he's out of the picture, and then we have Joanne trying to read a bedtime story to Andy, and trying to nurture him, get him to get ready to go to bed. He is worried, or he's like obviously not okay because the Tommy doll is like in there with them and stuff. And then that's whenever Chucky gets into the house. Chucky gets inside, and then he starts to attack Tommy.
Yeah, with
Even though
that
Tommy is
little
inanimate.
Dutch figurine, and because he's like, "Hi, I'm Tommy. Want to play?" And he's like, "I'm
Yeah,
Chucky."
because and he starts to say, after he hits him, what is he like? He's like, I want a hug. I want a hug. And I love how Chucky's just like, hug this. And just like starts bashing his face in.
Yeah, that was
so
entertaining.
pretty entertaining. Did we count that as a death?
I guess, yeah. Back to back kills Tommy, because then he goes and he buries Tommy out in the backyard underneath the swing set, and he just is like singing a little song. He seems happy as a clam, just happy as peaches to be burying this little Tommy doll. You know that I had a imaginary friend when I was a kid named Tommy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that we think it was my grandpa because his name was Tom.
Oh, so was it like an old person, or was it like
no? He died when my mom was 11.
Oh, so he was little.
Yeah, so he was young, but I don't know who, like, I don't remember this interaction with Tommy, but apparently I had a babysitter, and I like scared her off because I was just sitting there talking to Tommy. Yeah. And she like, my parents came home, like handed her the money, and she like was like, keep it, and like left because she was so scared of me.
Pussy. What bitch. Can't handle shit. You, like, even if you weren't talking to like a ghost, like that's just a kid having an imaginary friend. And even if you were talking to a ghost, she sounds like she's no fun at a party. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah. She was like, get me out of here. She was not a fan. But anyways, Tommy, he buries him, and then
buries him, and then they're like, it's the next morning, and the dad finds the statue, broken, and he's getting on to both Kyle and Andy.
Yeah, I almost said Tommy.
There's so many names.
There are a lot of names in this one. But yeah, he gets onto them, and Kyle's like, well, I didn't do it. And Andy's like, well, neither did I. And then they're just like, well, until one of you fesses up, you're both grounded. So they ground them both. And Kyle's like, great, this is exactly how I wanted to spend my day off. And she's
doing
like,
laundry, grounded, and she's smoking her cigarette all up in his face.
Hands it to him. She's like, hold this. And so, of course, he puffs on it.
Off.
Yeah. And it's like, what did you think he was going to? She turns around and is like, oh my God, what are you doing? And I'm like, what did you think he was going to do?
She's like, what's wrong with you? Don't you know these are bad for you? And of course he's like, well, why do you do it? And she's like, well, because I'm like an adult, a grown up. And he's like, no, you're not.
Yeah, no, you're not. And then she was like, well, adults can do bad things to themselves, like can do bad things if they want to.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And it's like, no, you're not. So.
Been a long one. And so that's whenever she like takes it from him, right? And she's like, whatever. She's being very elderly sister, like, kind of treating him like a little punk. And
Yeah.
then the foster parents right now are talking about him. Just so, like, also as well, like, worst foster parents in the world to just be openly shitting and talking about how, like, what a horrible, or him at least, what, the
Yeah.
bad experience he doesn't, want this to be, and how he's troubled. And of course, Andy can hear them. And they're mentioning the doll. And so Andy then goes to the Tommy doll and he's like checking the batteries. He's like, I hate you. The Tommy doll obviously checks out to be normal. So he like takes it and he's basically trying to present to them that he's moving on, that he's okay, that he's going to assimilate, and that they don't have to get rid of him.
Yeah, because he like walks back up to them and he's like, hello.
Hmm.
And they're like, and he's just holding the doll and they're like,
Yeah.
hello. But yeah, he was trying to prove in his
Um,
own little way.
mhm. And then cut to him and Kyle outside, and they're kind of playing around. They're goofing, hanging out by the swings. And it's actually really sweet that he has someone like this who can like keep him company and like be his friend. And
Yeah.
they're, forming a little bond very quickly. And then the dad, calls them to go inside. And all at the same time, they're like on the swing set, which is over where Chucky had buried Tommy. So it's just like you can tell so like clearly and plainly that there's been a grave dug here. But nobody's asking questions right now.
Yeah.
I guess
That there's
nobody's
like
really paying
fresh
attention.
dirt and stuff.
Yeah. Hmm.
But
And
yeah, it just it was like surprisingly well flattened, I guess, because it was raining.
maybe.
So like had there been a mound, like I would
Hmm.
have been a little more suspicious, but like because of how flat it got, I was like, I guess that's how I rationed it. That like
Also, it was like perfectly like
happening.
square, like
Yeah.
rectangular. Um, but we have then the dad calling them for supper, so they need to go in for dinner. And then now it's nighttime, and nighttime means the freaks come out because that's Chucky's up,
Chucky is up and yeah, he's got Andy all like
bound and
tied up.
gagged,
Yeah, got a fucking sock in his mouth and
literally.
like, I'm gonna kill you and starts
Uh
like
huh.
chanting and stuff. But then they hear a noise at the window
Hmm.
and it's Kyle sneaking back in from going out.
Hmm.
And so Chucky stops and he's like, I'll get you next time, basically.
Yeah.
Um, and he like Kyle
He just.
gets in and she's like, what the hell? But like by that point, like too much commotion has happened and the parents come in
Yeah.
and they're like, why would you like tie him up? And she's like, I didn't do this. And she like unties one of Andy's arms and he's like, it's fucking Chucky. He didn't say
Yeah.
that, but he like is like, I hate him and punches
Yeah.
him in the face off the bed, which I was like, hell yeah, get him. But
And then they're all like freaking out and they're all like, what the hell? And obviously, like, he didn't do that to himself, but like it's not giving that Kyle did it either. So they're just like, well, this is some fucked up stuff.
this
And
is
so
real
then,
weird.
yeah, exactly. And then that's whenever we have them like the dad doesn't believe Andy at all that it's, Chucky obviously doing this stuff. So he grabs the doll in anger and he takes it. He's going downstairs and he's like, look, I'm going to get rid of it. Kind of almost, consoling Andy. But then he's like, just chunks him down into the basement,
Yeah.
which obviously doesn't get rid of him. And when he gets down there and they close the door, he's bleeding. So we know now that Chucky is turning back to human form again in the form of
Mhm.
the doll. So this is bad because he doesn't want to get stuck in the body of the
Yep.
doll. Mhm.
And so now he's on a time crunch trying to get
Mhm.
stuff done quickly. And then we flash to basically Andy being at school after this or we get a little montage I think of Chucky like looking through some papers and going, where is it, where is it, where is it? And
Mhm.
then Andy's at school and he's like sitting there just minding his own business, listening to the teacher, but the fucking kid behind him flicks his ear and
being
it
a little
makes
dick.
him speak up. So then the teacher gets on to Andy and is like, she's being, I guess it was the 80s or 90s. So like a little bit more like the shit flew, like, and corporal punishment was a thing. Like, I remember having to bring home the papers saying, like, we're allowed to beat your child and stuff.
Mhm.
And my parents always signed it. They were like, yeah, smack the shit out of her. We do it too. No, I'm not kidding, but
But we're grown.
we're grown now. So, but they leave the Andy's just like it, like he tries to stand up for himself, and then she's like, nah, nah.
Yeah, she shuts him down, and she's
Yeah.
basically making him just seem like he's a troublemaker, which he is not, and like he's causing issues, which he's not really, because the boy was picking on him. I love how he
Yeah.
said, "Get lost, microchip," and then we have her essentially putting him in timeout.
Because she finds
His homework.
paper, and it says "fuck you, bitch" on it, and so they like. She gets really mad, and then she walks over to him. He was looking through a cabinet, finds Chucky in there, and
Get a
is
little
like,
spook.
yeah. And he's like freaking out.
But she comes up right up behind him real fast.
Yeah. And basically doesn't give him like time to like focus on that. And then she's like, why would you write this? And he's like, I didn't write this. And then she like yanking him around by the arm and like throws him into a desk and then like slams his head down. Maybe it wasn't that dramatic, but it felt like I was like, girl, get your hands off of him. Is all I could think during this scene.
Are your ulcerative colitis symptoms proving difficult to manage? Tremfya guselkumab can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. At 1 year, many patients taking Tremfya achieved clinical remission, and some patients also achieved endoscopic remission. Individual results may vary. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Ask your doctor if Tremfya can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more, or visit tremfyaradio.com.
Support comes from ServiceNow. We're for people doing the creative work they actually want to do. That's why this ad was written and read by a real person, and not AI. You know what people don't want to do? Boring, busy work. Now with AI agents built into the ServiceNow platform, you can automate millions of repetitive tasks in every corner of your business, IT, HR, and more, so your people can focus on the work that they want to do. That's putting AI agents to work for people. It's your turn. Visit servicenow.com.
Definitely a different time. And so she's disciplining him, and he is in this like timeout period while everyone else is outside. I'm assuming like at recess or something, playing around, or at a different like study hall. And so he's just there, and he's kind of like, he's weary because he knows that Chucky is around. And so he kind of goes looking for him. He ends up leaving the room. And so that's whenever what's her face like comes back into the room, the teacher, Mrs. Kettlewell, and she's looking for him, and she's going through the room, and goes through that closet where like they have games and balls and all kinds of like sports and utilities, and she's looking for him, calling out for Andy. The whole time it's very suspenseful, kind of like how the first one and this one, there's a lot of moments where we're just kind of like building the tension, and like, is he gonna come out, is he not? A lot of jump scares that aren't really, him, fake outs. And yeah, essentially, I love how the ball like hits her back, and then she like tries to put it up, and then he just like stabs her in the like lungs or chest with the ball pumper.
Yeah. And some sort of inflator, and stabs her. And then she, of course, falls back very dramatically onto the tables. It goes into like low key slow mo. And then she hits the ground, and then Chucky comes out, and she's like, a doll. And then he just starts killing her with a big ruler. I mean, I imagine she was probably already going to die from the air pump being put into her like chest cavity. But yeah, now he just starts beating the shit out of her with a ruler. And I was like, why are no police officers involved in any of
Or
this?
at this point, maybe because they knew that, like, in the first one, essentially, like, they weren't of any use then. So what would they do? And then maybe
Yeah, it just made it a little hard for me to believe.
and then maybe as well because, like, nobody in this one ever believed or called the police, I guess. But we also never saw necessarily any of the aftermaths of any of these.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Right?
assuming the police were called. I just was like, how come we didn't see any
Yeah.
of it, considering
Yeah.
how police heavy the first one was?
Well, very much so.
So,
This
like,
one's
for there
very
to
much
be no police in this one, I was like, oh,
mhm, like anywhere.
yeah,
And so then,
except for when Phil dies.
yeah, and then he's killed. She is killed, obviously, with the ruler off screen. And then we have him getting home, and he is in trouble because the teacher, had called earlier about what had happened and everything. And so he's explaining once again that it was Chucky that went to the school and that, like, basically was ruining his fucking life.
I
And
also think I think he got there like way but ahead of schedule. Like
oh
before
yeah,
he was supposed to get home, and they're
that's
like,
right.
"Why are
Yeah,
you here?" And he was like, Chucky was at school, so I crawled out the window and I ran."
yeah,
So I think they were also like,
that's right.
"What the fuck are you doing home right now?"
And the dad is just a bit insensitive, and he's just like, look, and he takes him down to the basement and he shows him that Chucky has been downstairs the whole time, which he was, but also he wasn't. So we know that Chucky went, left, came back, and all to make it seem like Andy is basically going crazy,
Yeah.
and so they lose trust in him.
Yeah, exactly. And so sorry. I did
But
not sleep
they're
well
arguing over
at
him.
all.
It's okay.
Um,
No, it's the time change. It's like I've been
yeah.
so sleepy all day.
But yeah, the parents, they're her name's Joanne,
Mhm.
and Phil are arguing about Andy. And of course, he's only like 2 doors down. Like he can hear them. And
Mhm.
or maybe even 1 door down. He's just like in the next room. And they're like kind of screaming. So
Yeah.
he's of course listening. And then Kyle comes in and is like, "Hey, let's go like do something else." Like,
Mhm. She's
just
trying to
trying to
soothe him.
distract him and soothe them. Yeah. And then we flash to Andy getting up, and he is getting the little turkey
Turkey
carver
cook.
thing,
Mhm.
little electric knife. And he's like ready to go. And he's like, I'm taking things into my own hands, gonna find Chucky instead of waiting for him to come to me.
Yeah. Which, is good for him. It's about damn time, honestly, but also not when you're, like, 8 and you have a turkey cooker. So, he goes to the basement, and all was it around Thanksgiving? Because also, who just has a turkey carver just, like, out and about?
Yeah. I
Usually,
mean,
those are kind of,
they
like,
didn't
stored up until it's the time to use it.
I mean, maybe she had a ham or something she needed, or like a
Maybe.
roast beef or something that she needed to cut open,
They
slice.
do seem pretty fancy, pretty bougie.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he ends up going downstairs, pretty, eerie because, like, he's going through the stairs of the basement, and I was like, "Oh, dang, he's about to get, like, pushed off, or he's gonna slip, and, like, the knife's gonna stab him or something." Um,
Yeah, it was very suspenseful.
Yeah, and he gets down there and he's looking around for Chucky. And this whole time we get like a 5-minute scene of him basically looking around the basement. Same thing with the lady, the teacher, Mrs. Kettlewell, looking for Chucky, and he's not coming out. And he's also just kind of fucking with him, kind of
Yeah.
waiting for the right moment.
Because he
And
like spins the wheel. It looks like a ship wheel or
that
something.
like pops into him or something.
Yeah, and he like spins it and it makes sound. So then Andy's like, "What was that?" And like
Mm-hmm.
looks over his shoulder and stuff. And then then there's like those buoys that
The
like
buoy,
smack
that's what it
him
was.
in the face and stuff. They had such an odd collection of things down there. Like they had a smoking statue, that Native American like smoking statue down
Mm-hmm.
there. And then they had like all that ship stuff, regalia, and I don't know. It just was like,
Yeah. They seem to
what?
be collectors, maybe. Maybe
Yeah.
that's it. And so they are he's down there and he gets attacked by Chucky, obviously, because Chucky eventually jumps out and starts attacking him.
I
And
love every time Chucky's attacks someone, his little feet are just going
yeah,
crazy.
he's
He's
just
like, "Ah!"
yeah, uh-huh. It's
It
like kicking
cracks
them
me up.
basically.
Yeah,
Um,
just watching, like, how futile it was, basically.
and he's trying to attack uh Andy and is not having much luck because Andy's kind of holding his own.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And then he ends up being able to get the turkey cutter and like kind of put it onto Chucky. I don't think he necessarily cuts him up or anything, but he's able to get him off. But at this point, the dad, who was upstairs watching TV with Joanne, goes downstairs because he hears a commotion. And he goes down and he's like, "What the fuck is going on?" So as he's going downstairs, Chucky grabs this like crowbar looking thing. I think it's crowbar. And he makes the dad like fall off the stairs, essentially off the side, but he's kind of dangling. And then
Yeah.
finally, the dad sees that Chucky is alive, and Chucky's like, "Hey, Phil, how's it hanging?" And just lets him go. So the dad unfortunately falls and like breaks his neck and dies from the fall. So
Yeah.
pretty gnarly. And then of course the mom comes down and Kyle, and they're like freaking out, and she thinks that Andy, of course, this little boy had something to do with it. I'm like, he's little. I guess little kids can kill people, but like, I'm just like,
Yeah.
dude, Phil was at the top, Andy was already at the bottom.
Like, why couldn't it have just been an accident?
Yeah, exactly that. She was already ready to like pin it on him.
She was like, "Get away from me." And
Hmm.
it's like, "Bitch, he didn't do nothing." So, that was pretty dumb, but yeah, they start, we get like a scene of Joanne like packing up his things, and Kyle's kind of there comforting her. And Joanne's like, "Why didn't I listen to him? I should just listen to him. And like none of this would have happened," kind of things. Like, and Kyle's like, "It's not your fault, that this happened. It's not really anyone's fault." Or I don't think she said that. I just wanted her to say that, but she didn't. She did say
Hmm.
it's not your fault. Um, and then they basically are taking him. They pack up all of his things, and they bring it downstairs, and they are like taking him back to the center.
Hmm.
And
I'm sorry.
are
Do you
they
hear that?
inside the
Is
yeah.
that no? They're literally like right. Sorry. Hold on.
But they're
Okay,
taking
sorry.
him back to the center, and as he's leaving, he like warns Kyle, and he's like, "Chucky's still here, like get rid of him." And so Kyle kind of like, I feel like reluctantly listens to him and is like, "Well, I might as well just in case." So she takes
Hmm.
this doll, puts it in the trash, and
Just kind of chilling, lights her little cigarette.
yeah.
Hmm. And then she's kind of just there smoking her cigarette on the swing, and that's whenever she notices beneath her that the dirt was like pretty fresh, and so she
Killed.
notices that. She notices that the little Tommy doll leg is sticking out of the ground, and so she pulls it out, She's like, huh, that's weird. So then she looks back at the dumpster and she goes back to the dumpster. And when she opens it up, Chucky is no longer there. So she's like, even weirder. So she goes to go get some like weapons, a knife, and then she goes back inside. And as she's going through the house, she's looking for Chucky. And he has like, we see like the yarn ball is like, hanging down the stairs, kind of unraveled as she's walking up. And like, once again, another 5 minutes of like, suspense and where is he? And then finally we get to one of the bedrooms and we see that unfortunately Joanne has been murdered off screen.
Yeah.
And
Because you could hear all the while, like as Kyle's heading up the stairs, you can hear this tick, 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 tick happening. And it's like, I was like, what the fuck is that sound? I thought I was going crazy because like nothing was really coming of it.
Yeah.
And then then it kind of went away and then it started growing louder again. And then once they got in the room and like it was really loud, and then like you see her sewing machine still going. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's
Good
what it
payoff.
was. Yeah.
And so she's like obviously freaked out because, the mom's dead. And so at the same time, Chucky has the best timing as always and jumps out and tries to attack her. And
From under the sheets. He was like hiding on the sheets, and she, of course, like falls backwards in shock when she pulls Joanne's body around and like sits on the bed. And then Chucky's like, wah, from behind her.
And it's just going full on vicious attack mode on her. And then that's whenever she ends up I got lost on my notes there. My bad. It's Kyle versus Chucky, and then she ends up getting her to get her in the car, and she's driving him to go to the center to go get what's his face, Andy. They're talking about it, and he's like basically wanting her to get there fast, but she's like, no, it's going to take time for me to get there.
Yep, and but she listens to him, like starts going faster, and they get pulled over. And the cop is like talking to them, and he's like, "Hey, is that one of those good guy dolls?" And he was like, "Hey, little buddy, like say something." And he's like, "Hi, I'm Chucky." Not even in like the little kid voice. It was like full on Brad Dourif voice, and he was just like, "Hi, I'm Chucky." And then he all of a sudden starts bleeding from the nose, right?
He starts like having a little nosebleed, and that's whenever the cop is like, "What the heck is that?" And Kyle's like, "Oh yeah, these newer models, they actually bleed or something like that."
Yeah, she was like, "You've seen a doll that pees now, and this one bleeds." And which I had a doll when I was a kid that peed and pooped.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah. Well, I guess I didn't have it. The school had it, and I played with it.
Oh, okay. That's cute. I remember those. They were trying to groom you into becoming a housewife.
A little mom.
Yeah. And so that's whenever we have
old.
They end up getting into a kerfuffle, essentially. Kerfuffle. And she essentially gets him to crash out of the window in the midst of their kerfuffle. And as he's out, like, then like on the hood of the car, she like breaks and he goes flying, and she tries to pin him, but she's not able to. And he kind of gets away, and as she's like, looking outside for him, he like comes up to her with a knife and he's like, playtime's over. And so we got to our now foster care center where all the kiddos are. And I thought like, oh, okay, I thought this was going to end up being like where the final act was going to be, to be honest.
Yeah.
But no, we were surprised.
Not what happened. But yeah, there were also, going back just a little bit, watching on Amazon Prime, they have little like fun facts, kind of basically if you ever like pause the screen and stuff. And I noticed this while I was watching the first one too. But the first one and this one, especially during this car chase or the car scene where she's like throwing him all around, there's a bunch of continuity errors.
Oh, okay.
Like at one point the screen was like shattered and then it was completely fine and other things like that. There's just a whole bunch of continuity errors in these films.
No, I can imagine. I don't think they were like filmed, with the biggest of budgets or stuff like that. So, but even then, like, I wonder, huh? Maybe they just didn't care. They're like,
Yeah.
it's
They're
it's a
like,
Chucky
"Oh,
movie.
we've already shot that and we're not doing it again."
Yeah. But we have all of that happen, and now we're at the center, and Kyle shows up and pulls the fire alarm because now all the kiddos and everybody has to get out because the fire alarm's going on. And she has Chucky and the I don't remember her name, but the kind of counselor lady
Yeah,
who
the
was there to begin,
headmistress.
the headmistress. She's looking at Kyle like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" Also with the doll, and she's like, "You did this, didn't you?" And so then Kyle's like, "Chucky did it," and they end up taking. She ends up taking them into like the side, like in the office, her office, and so she's trying to confront them essentially, and like why she would do this and stuff like that. And she grabs the doll, and
Yeah, she
Chucky's
like
like,
rips the doll out of Kyle's
mhm,
hand.
"Yeah."
And so it was like I was like, "Bitch, that's not your doll." Like,
Yeah, and she's trying to be
but
like, "This isn't real," and then he just looks at her, and I love how I don't remember what he says,
I
to
don't
be honest.
remember what he says either, but like, "Get a load of this," basically,
And
and then
stabs
stabs
her.
her. And then she
Mhm.
falls back, and I really enjoyed this scene too because she falls back onto the copier and
Yeah.
like Xeroxes her face as she's
Mhm.
dying. And she falls over and then just like sheets and
Copies.
sheets copies of these copies are just falling onto her face. And I was like,
I
nice.
thought it was pretty iconic, yeah. That was
Yeah.
cool, well,
I
especially
thought that
her,
was
like
good.
it had to have been, it's well choreographed because even, like, he stabs her, and then her whole, her whole, like, falling onto
To
it, and
fall
then, like
onto it, yeah.
mhm. But, yeah, Xerox her face, and obviously horrific. Horrific, horrific, horrific. Andy and Kyle are like, ah, and so then we have once again another kerfuffle, and there's a lot going on. And then Andy ends up
Suki's
like,
like biting my cord.
oh, I'm sorry, I don't hear anything or anything.
Okay, good. She's
Yeah,
like eating it though.
uh,
So I'm like,
maybe
please
not so good.
don't get electrocuted and die.
Um, he ends up Chucky ends up getting Andy and is like forcing him essentially to like do what he wants, and he gets him to go outside and then go into a truck. And Kyle is following them, and she sees this and she goes after them. She gets in her car and she's following, and as she's behind them, what he like flips her off. She's trying to make
Yeah.
the truck stop, but he's not
Which
stopping.
was funny because it was his
I
little
thought it was
finger.
funny
He's like,
too.
"Ain't."
Yeah, both of
And
them. And
then
then
later on when she flips him off, I was like,
yeah,
nice.
it's good. And so then she's able to stop the truck because she basically almost kills herself by, stopping right in front of it.
Yeah.
And Andy and Chucky are now gone. How they hopped off, I do not know.
They
I
must
guess
have
it
hopped
was
out while he was
it was like
driving
in
pretty
motion.
fast too. Yeah, and they must have
Yeah.
hopped off when it was in motion.
And so he's got it stopped, and the truck driver is like going off on Kyle, and she just like leaves him as he's calling her a bitch, chasing after them, and we end up in the factory, the Play Pal Toys factory. And we're inside, and it becomes basically essentially kind of like a more of a maze of good guy dolls, and they're trying to get through it. And all this is going on. Chucky arrives, obviously, and he's after them, and he ends up getting a hold of Andy, and he tries to perform the ritual on Andy. It happens
Yeah,
pretty
because
fast.
he doesn't he like knock him out with a knife
Yeah, that's right. He knocks him out.
and
Yeah,
then is like
trying to perform it. And
performs
at
the
this point, I'm trying to
ritual.
remember where Kyle's at. Is she just looking for an exit? Oh, she hadn't
She's
even arrived yet. That's right. Yeah,
Yeah, she's like walking through the factory because she
trying to get to
hears
him.
him at one point, but it's like I kept expecting because she was in there, and so I kept expecting her to like walk up and kick him as he was talking. But I
Yeah.
guess she couldn't find him in the midst of everything. And so, but he's trying to perform this ritual, and it's looking like it's gonna work. Like all the thunder clouds and everything keep rolling in, and
Mm-hmm.
like, there's like a storm and he's getting real intense about it, but then nothing happens and no lightning strikes. Like the door or the storm just
Yeah,
like
blows
backs
over.
off.
Because
And
remember in the first one, whenever he did it, like there was an explosion in the toy store.
yeah, the lightning struck and it caused
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
everything. And this one, that
Yeah,
didn't happen. And
yeah,
so then he was like, "What the fuck? Like, I'm trapped in this doll body." And he was
yeah.
so mad. But then, like, then I think Andy starts running and Kyle's like, "Come here." And they like find
Mm-hmm.
each other. And but then they like kind of stop because I think Andy got a little bit of blood on his face from Chucky bleeding on him. And she was
Mm-hmm.
kind of like looking at him like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Bitch, you gotta run. It don't matter if he's got a little cut on his face. Like, we
Literally.
gotta get out of here."
And so they are trying to get out, but all the while, like we said earlier, it's a kind of a maze of toys, and they for some reason can't find their way out because for some reason the factory workers who made this literally trapped themselves into a maze. I don't understand. But also with that
Yeah.
hour, so it does kind of make
I
sense that
know,
things are
like the fact
locked
that
and
she came to a dead end, I was like,
yeah, it was weird.
"What?"
Doesn't make sense. And so we have logistically it just doesn't them trying to get through. Then thankfully at one point they end up like getting the going through a conveyor belt, right? Oh my bad, no, yeah, because she sees like this conveyor belt thing, which also is like I remember writing down in my notes like Andy looking at her like she's dumb because she was like, let's go through here, and he's like okay.
Seems like a bad idea. And
Yeah.
also, I was like, "Why is this conveyor belt running with no supervision at
Mhm.
all?"
Yeah, all of it. um and we have them going through this little like conveyor belt like cage thing almost, and they're trying to get through, and once they get all the way to the end we get a jump scare because Chucky comes out and he starts attacking Andy and he's trying to get him, but thankfully Kyle, who has been honestly just coming through this entire movie like
Yeah.
solid, solid, the only person who to ever honestly have Andy's back this much, like his own mom didn't even have his back this much. um
Yeah.
And so she is
I
able to like
unfortunately, I feel like Kyle's seen some shit. So
oh
she was
yeah,
just like, yeah.
she was ready, survival mode. She was able to close like this thing on Chuck's hand, and so he's stuck as they walk and run off, not walk, run off. And he just is really determined to get Andy. He's really pissed off. So he rips off his own hand. And I like the
Yep.
effects because it was pretty cool because you saw like it looked like he was human. He had blood and everything and like,
And like
cuts coming
sinews
out.
and yeah, like
Hmm.
little string like
Vein looking
tendons and
things.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
all ripped out. And it was pretty gnarly. I was like, "Okay, cool." And then they get out through that thing and then he goes and he like it looked so nasty, but he like takes the knife that he had
Yeah.
and like shoves it into his arm and then like tapes around it or something. And he's like, "I could
Yeah.
get used to this," or something like that.
You got a knife or a hand, all at the same time. They are trying to get through this other conveyor belt, the same one from the beginning that puts eyes into the dolls.
Yeah.
And Kyle gets through it pretty easily, and then she's trying to coach Andy through it. And as he gets through it, and they get to the other side, they realize that they still cannot get out through a door that says exit, a door that says exit. And
Yeah.
so, and alarms start going off. I think at this point they start to trip off alarms or something because the dude in like the security area is like, "What's going on?" You know,
Yeah, because they
the
messed the
conveyor
conveyor
belt.
belt up, and so, like,
That's
dolls
right.
started piling up, so he was, like, at the eyeball station, and so then he was going to go fix it,
Hmm.
and he's laying down, and I was like, "Ooh, I can see what's gonna happen," and sure enough, he's laying there, and all of a sudden the machine like starts working, or Chucky comes up. Chucky comes
Yeah.
up, right? And like
Yeah.
is like kind of slits his throat or something,
Mhm.
or like stabs him a little
He
bit,
stabs
and
him.
then
Yeah.
he falls back, and then he fixed the machine so the eyeballs start going down, and it shoves the toy eyeballs into his sockets,
Yeah.
and then he's like dead because he's just got his eyeballs punched out.
Which
Which,
would that kill somebody?
well, I feel like in conjunction with the stab wound he already had from Chucky,
Mm.
probably, because he kind of stabbed him in like the jugular.
Yeah, he would bleed out.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, unalived, that dude is no longer with us,
Yep.
and his body gets like taken by the machine, and then he basically becomes like a door from Monsters Inc. just getting thrown around like a piece of meat.
Yeah.
And then we have uh, Kyle and Andy, and they basically have because Chucky, they're all coming out by that machine that puts the I don't know what to call it, like a doll maker machine.
Yeah, that like assembles the main part of the body, like puts the limbs and stuff on.
To the
So
torso
that
and
way,
everything.
yeah.
Mhm. And so they're all getting close and near this machine, and so they're able to get, I think it was what happened, I think I was taking a note or I was doing something at this time, but somehow they're
Um,
able to, like, get him to get into the machine.
yeah, they like he gets like fused onto the conveyor belt somehow, and like he goes in,
Mhm,
and then he's like, no, no, and
mm,
it goes off because we saw it before. We saw another doll, like it ended up going backwards, and a doll that had just come out went back in, and then it came out like all deformed and like with arms growing out of its
mhm.
head and stuff. Like very, like you have in your notes here, Monstra
Those with
Alyssa
Sue.
Sue,
Mhm,
just like body parts coming out where they're not supposed to be and stuff. And so but then that ends up happening to Chucky, and I thought it was gonna like low key end here. Um,
mhm.
but I
There's so
should have
many
known
moments.
better.
Yeah.
Like, but he like
He
goes in the
doesn't die.
machine and he doesn't die. He comes back out and he's looking real rough. And you kind of think he's dead because then they're like, okay, well, time to go. And they're like making their way downtown. They're not walking very fast, and they like get somewhere, and then isn't this where she gets fucking smacked by the dude?
Yeah, she does, and then it gets, like, thrown onto the conveyor belt.
Yeah,
There's so
that
much
was
happening.
it was wild when
The
I was like,
last
"Whoa, what the
The
hell?"
last 20 minutes of this film are very like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And so yeah, she gets smacked onto the conveyor belt, and then he comes out and he's like trying to attack Andy, and he's like somehow got himself on like this little box with wheels. I don't even know what
Yeah,
I was
he's
looking at.
like I think he couldn't like walk anymore, so he was
Yeah,
like
yeah,
rolling himself along with that,
yeah,
and then he's like, "I'm gonna cut your legs off."
yeah.
And he like stabs at Andy's legs, but Andy moves just in time, and then his like knife
The
hand
knife gets
gets
stuck.
stuck.
Yeah,
And what was that? Like a
it was like
heater of some sorts? Like what's that word
yeah.
that starts with a C?
Convection. I don't know. A
Convection oven.
convecture, converter, conveyor. No, it looked like, like the like your blow dryer and how it has the back end and it has those
With
things that
like
are
the
like
coils.
yeah.
Yeah.
It looked like that kind of ish, and he gets his hand knife stuck in between the metal plates
Yeah.
essentially. And then he can't move, and then at this point, is it hot wax? Is that what that was? Like the wax that makes the dolls, the plastic, or
I'm guessing that's what it was, because
it's
I
like
was
hot
like,
plastic.
it's not water, but yeah, like melted plastic is what I just assumed it was. I was like, what is this?
And he unleashes all of this goop onto Chucky, and Chucky's getting blasted like slime, like it's a Nickelodeon special back
Yep.
in the 90s, and that's
My
whenever.
friend was on that.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah,
I wish I would have been
Ryan.
on there. I wanted to. And so then Kyle, he saves Kyle. They're able to get back together, and then I love how it's just like, look, let's just go. All right, we're done. Because she's like looking at the what's left of him, and she's like, "What did you do to him?" Like, "Oh my goodness, like good job," essentially. And then he comes back to life because Chucky doesn't die. Not looking like a blob. He's like somehow perfectly like he's like souped up, Chucky almost.
Yeah,
Um,
with like
um,
new skin basically
yeah,
formed over him, and he looks very um like Hills Have Eyes people.
yeah, like the House of Wax almost, like just covered in
Yeah.
it. And then
And
she's able to stick, I guess, a helium or an air tank, something in him, an air.
yeah, I thought it was an
Valve.
electrical cord at first until his head just starts going. "Hmm."
Yeah, same. He looks like there used to be this animation or cartoon, but it was like claymation of like Nickelodeon or some show back in the day, and they all looked like that. They were like,
Oh,
and their lips were
real
like,
big head. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. It
hmm
also kind of reminded me of Garbage Pail Kids instead of
I don't know
Cabbage
what that
Patch
is.
Kids. There's the Garbage Pail Kids.
I'll look it
Um,
up.
yeah, it kind of reminded me of that. Like there's some that have big heads and stuff like that.
What is that? Is those a thing?
Garbage Pail Kids, yeah. You
They
could
look kind of
collect like
scary.
cards. They are kind of scary.
They're like taco heads and like.
Like,
Anyways, I see
yeah,
what you mean. I see what you mean.
I have little cards of them that I used to hand out in like
Yeah,
sloppy
there's
seconds
cards.
orders. Yeah.
That's
So,
cute.
anyways,
Okay,
but
yeah, they're
he
doing
blows
all
his head
that.
up, it explodes, and then they like
The
are
most
walking
like
out and they're yeah, talking like, "Where are we gonna go?" I don't know.
we're going
How do we get
home.
there? And yeah, it's like, "We're going home." And then you just get the little good guy doll
Jingle.
sign waving
Mhm.
over like, "Bye-bye now."
Mhm.
And that's the end of the movie.
That's the end of Child's Play 2.
Child's Play 2. Yep. It was directed by someone else this time, right? John Lafia?
John Lafia, yeah, directed by John Lafia, who was a friend of Don Mancini. And I believe Don chose John because in the first movie, unfortunately, I think he had some issues with the first director. Um, and so, or was it him? I don't know. Was it some? Hold on. Maybe am I thinking wrong? I don't know where I read that or I saw that. Um, because now,
Oh, one of my fun facts kinda answers something.
give it to me.
Mancini stated
Mm.
that in an early draft of the script, the film was set during the Christmas season. This would have explained why so many good guy dolls were in the factory during the finale, but also why she had a carving knife out.
That helps. That literally explains so much. Yeah, there. Tom Holland is the director of not that Tom Holland, but is the director
Yeah,
of the first one, and so I think they had beef, and so that's why he chose a different person. But
that makes sense.
yeah, but then also I'm looking at the rest of them, and he literally has a different director for each movie until we get to Seed of Chucky, and then he just takes over the role of directing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the movie, you guys. I'll start us off with the boo ratings. I think that for a sequel, it's pretty good. It does this what a sequel does. It kind of to me upped the ante. We saw Chucky a bit more in this one. We saw him kind of, running around and doing all the things. Um, did I don't think we got any POV shots, did we? Like how we did in the first one?
No,
Or not?
not like
Uh,
that, no.
no, yeah, which I missed. I kind of missed, but also we know what he looks like and what he does. So, um, I feel like that was in the first movie more kind of because we were viewing through the lens of him because he wasn't yet like a visible thing because everybody's like, it's not real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so maybe also in this one, the lack of police is kind of better for it because the police in the first one kind of almost made it maybe where it would give it too much like they could answer too much or like stop it or like maybe if there were police us as an audience would be like why aren't the police stopping this kind of like in the first one, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you just be kind of like maybe they just didn't want to do that again.
Sorry.
It's okay. Let it out.
There.
um Overall though I really thought it was like really well paced to me. I thought that it was funny. I don't know if they were trying to be, but I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
And like I liked the special effects, especially the practical effects and everything when he like rips his hand off and you just see it and it's just like detaching. You see it like ripping. And I thought that the acting was, I mean, it was all pretty believable, I guess, for the most part. The parents and even Andy did pretty good. I feel like his acting was a bit more detached from this one as it was from this first one, or like maybe it just wasn't. They didn't write him a lot of material essentially because
Yeah.
he didn't have too many heavy parts in this one. Um,
No, he felt almost like a completely different kid.
yeah, I would say that as well, and almost as if like what happened in the first one, like didn't
I think he was a shell of himself, like he was traumatized.
literally, yeah. Like
So
he didn't even act
in
out or
other
anything.
sense, he did a fantastic job acting again as if he was a traumatized child.
That's true. Um, uh, s- yeah, I mean, overall, I feel like it's a solid sequel. Um, Maybe it's a bit too jokey, maybe. And they did pay a lot of attention on Chucky himself. So a lot of the times I'm really looking at him like this really is just a doll. Like he's just a doll. Because you
Yeah.
see him so much more in this movie. But I would honestly give it like a 4
Yeah.
in terms of being a sequel, and, like, I was kind of expecting it to be pretty, like,
Bad.
bad, honestly,
Yeah.
but it wasn't that bad, and I kinda liked that it was a different setting. It's kinda more focusing him in the house and stuff, and him at, these like, the foster center and then the factory. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought all the settings were pretty interesting. Um, and yeah, it seemed very natural as well, following along like what would have naturally happened to a kid after what happened in the first one. He would get placed in the foster care system, like, and then, yada yada. Because I couldn't imagine that. What if they did make Child's Play 2 and it's like him and his mom again? And then
Yeah.
they're going through that again. So essentially, they probably didn't do that because it's the same movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But go ahead with your fun facts.
One of the fun facts is basically why so it says there were many rumors about why Catherine Hicks didn't reprise her role as Karen Barkley in the sequel, with the popular being that she was pregnant by her husband Kevin Yeager, who operated the animatronic Chucky doll.
Oh,
But
okay.
the simple fact was that the director, John Lafia, wanted to take the story in a new direction, a direction that didn't include her character, aside from an unfilmed opening courtroom scene that had her be sent to the mental institution. Despite not reprising her role, she was constantly on set for the sequel due to visit her husband.
That's cool.
Yeah. The original script had an opening scene of a court hearing dealing with the events of the previous film with Karen Barkley and Mike Norris defending Andy. Oh, so Mike Norris was defending Andy, while the remains of Chucky's burned body are stored in an evidence locker before being taken by the executives of the Play Pals company to rebuild it. Catherine Hicks was to reprise her role of Karen Barkley in the sequence, but it was cut before filming began. Elements of the scene appeared in a similar courtroom scene in Curse of Chucky 2013, and the evidence locker opening was retooled in Bride of Chucky 1998.
Cool.
Yeah, I kind of wish they would have left that in.
Yeah, it would have gave explained a bit more, I feel like.
Yeah. But I
Mhm.
mean, I guess it still did, like, we still knew what happened to her. Like, they didn't leave us in the dark. So, but
Mhm.
I do kind of wish they would have left that in. Um, uh, the good guy doll Tommy is named after the original Child's Play director Tom Holland.
That's
And
right.
yeah, then the director John felt that the movie should primarily be shot from a child's perspective and more specifically from Andy and Chucky's perspectives. To achieve this effect, Lafayette employs very wide lenses, very low angles, bright colors, and a deep depth of a field, as he felt this was how the world looked to a child. Many have praised the childlike look of this film as being its most effective quality over the years.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
What else? What other fun facts you got for me?
Well, that's basically it. I mean, I can read, there's 44 more.
No,
Um,
no, it's okay.
so I could read all of them. Oh, all of Brad Dourif's voiceover work for Chucky was recorded in advance so they can match up Chucky's mouth with the words. Because of this and his human form being dead, Dourif really rarely appeared on set. Instead, recordings of his voice would be played back for Alan Svinson to go by.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to help probably like cut production costs and stuff and get things right.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I wonder how they did line all that up. Is that all? And then, well, yeah. Thank you for the fun facts. What are your takes on the movie?
Um, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun to get through. Like, I did think it was like a little slow at the beginning, but talking back through it, I was like, I guess there were some deaths. They just weren't very eventful to me.
Yeah.
Um, and but I appreciate, like, I'm assuming that was a reference to Black Christmas, with the
Mhm.
bag
The
over the
bag.
head.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate things like that. But
Hmm.
um yeah, and I think Alex Vincent did a great job again, like portraying a completely traumatized little boy. The rest of the acting, like Kyle did a good job. Um, there wasn't anything that like made me, and like Phil and why do I keep want to call her Lorraine?
Lorraine Lawrence.
Janice?
Joanne.
Joanne. I
Yeah.
can't remember her name for the life of me. She did a great job, but like none of it like really like stood out to me.
Yeah.
Like it just was believable. Like at, so that's good, like baseline. Obviously with acting, you want it to be believable. And they all did a good job of that. So I appreciated that. Um I will, just for some reason, I liked it and I liked the deaths. I really loved the copy machine death and then the eyeball death. I thought those were freaking
Super
awesome.
cool. I
Yeah.
don't know if like we had seen a Xerox death like that before that. So I don't know how original that is, but if like they were the inception of that, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was. So, um I I don't know if I like it better than the first one or if I like it
Mhm.
like about the same.
Mhm.
It's not like I like it less by any means. I do think
Yeah.
I liked the like police procedural like storyline in the first one a little bit better, I think. And like it had, like him coming back to kill Eddie or whatever his name was and
Mhm.
everything, like that all made sense to me.
More
But
of a through line. Yeah.
yeah, and so there's just, it felt like this one was a little more abstract with like Chucky's just a murderer and he's coming, like, I mean, I knew he was coming after Andy, but like
Well,
once
and
he
then
couldn't get in Andy's body, like why do you need to kill him? I guess because he's
exactly.
dead. But
And even then, like not being able to get into his body, I was fully expecting at that point for like me to hear Andy's voice in Chucky. Like whenever he's
yeah,
looking at his hand and stuff, I kind of thought maybe like, but then somehow like, and like, it didn't work well enough to go back or they were gonna do it again. I don't know. But
yeah,
um it was kind of like almost like they were getting to a climax and then they were just like scared. That almost makes sense, like, all the way there, and so they were just like, "You know what? No, we'll just do this instead," like, um, but I don't do actually switch bodies.
Yeah. Sorry, the
Mhm.
screen kind of froze a bit, so it was a little hard for me to hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Um, but I think I got the gist of what you were saying.
Uh,
Um, but yeah. So I think I'll probably end up giving it like a 4. Yeah. My original gut was like 3.5,
yeah.
but it was still really good. Like I don't have any reason to dislike it. So I think a 4.
I think that's fair. And between my
So
4 and
then
your 4, it's a 4.
that's solid 4.
Because we gave Chucky like 4.5, I think.
Yeah, 4.35 I think is what you gave it. A 4.2 something. I gave it a 4.5.
And yeah, you guys, that is Child's Play 2. Where we will lead into Child's Play 3, I'm not sure because I haven't seen any of them. So I don't even know where we're going to be going with it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even want to look it up. Like, I just kind of want to be surprised.
Yeah, no, me too. I never seen 2 or 3.
I
So
think this
I
next
think I've
one's the one
seen
about the
Bride of
military too.
Chucky.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I've seen Bride of Chucky, but I've not seen 2 or 3. So this was a completely new experience for me. And then so will 3 be.
So will 3B.
So will 3 be.
It rhymed. The power of 3 will set you free.
With our forces combined, powers combined.
But yeah, you guys, anything else we need to add? No, we already know what we're going to cover next week.
Yep, we'll be covering
For today.
Child's Play 3.
If you haven't listened to last week's, excuse me, please check it out.
Yeah, listen to our Child's Play 1 original Chucky episode. And then, as always, we're being hosted by the lovely Rogue Media Network Studios. They always take great care of us. You can listen to us and all the other amazing podcasts that they have. They've got a whole bunch of them. You can do so all in one central place, and that is at their website.
RogueMediaNetwork.com.
That's right. And then if you want to listen to us or any of those podcasts, you can do so on a slew of podcasting platforms, but the biggest two would be
Spotify
and also Apple. But wherever you do listen, don't forget to
rate, review, like, and subscribe.
That's right, because that's the only way we can get ahead in this world. And then if you want to let us know your thoughts on Child's Play 2, if you liked it better than 1, because I did read some reviews that were like, this is so much better than the first one.
Yeah.
And so like if you are one of those people who agrees, if you liked it the same, kind of like we did, or if you liked it more or less, let us know on our one social media platform, which is Instagram, and that is at
Boobaes Podcast, and that's at BOOBAES Podcast, because we're your boobaes, not your boobabes.
That's right. And I guess that's all.
So until next time.
Until next time, you guys. Bye, bays.
Boobaes.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.